Alright y'all, so I'm at the park today and I thought that I would do like a little park vlog today because I actually brought a lot of stuff to do and I also plan to film a lot of content, so I thought it'd be like a nice day to bring y'all with me. This is kind of when I wish I had a camera just so I could film content and then also have my phone with me, because I'd love to record some of the processes of me like meditating and doing other things, but like I can't with everything on my phone, or maybe I should get like 2 phones. I don't know. We'll see. Here is a little mini fit check. It's just like a midi dress and then a scarf and my hairy armpits, because honestly I feel like being hairy and free has been so liberating for me. And honestly, it's also been kind of like a challenge too, because I feel like I'm still sometimes pretty insecure about like armpit hair. Not that I care what people think, but I guess it kind of creeps in sometimes. Like when I'm at the gym or I'm doing things where like my armpits will be out, sometimes I get a little self-conscious. But honestly, I've been challenging myself to not like shave it or do anything, just because like I don't really care. Like I personally don't care if there's hair on my body, and I know I'll just shave it off when I want to. But I think sometimes in the in-between stages before I decide I want to shave, I don't know, I feel a little bit of societal pressure. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's been nice. It's been fun. I wish I knew what was inside of this tea. I got it at a local cafe that I went to. I think it's called like Earthy Cafe. And I was gonna try and show y'all. I washed this right before putting my tea in, and I don't think I got the soap polish right. It doesn't taste that soapy, so I think it might be fine. But yeah, this is what the tea looks like. If I were to guess, I think it's a mix of rose petals, for sure jasmine, and I think some type of black tea. I'm not sure which specific type of black tea, but it's for sure a black tea. I don't know. I was looking at it earlier and I feel like it might have either calendula as well as maybe like chrysanthemum. The tea was called Mystic Traveler, so that doesn't doesn't give any indication of what it actually is, but it tastes good, and because it's a black tea, I think it might give me a little bit of energy. But yeah, so one of the main reasons honestly I wanted to do this vlog is because I feel like for the past couple of days there's been like a buzzword among my friends and people I've been in conversation with, as well as myself, and just kind of like a word that keeps coming up, and so that word is discernment. And I feel like it's one of those words where I know the meaning and I was half practicing the meaning, but as soon as I heard the word and I was reminded of the word, it kind of just like clicked in my mind that that was something that I needed to hear, and that was something I needed to talk about. So yeah, let's talk about discernment. It's really windy today, so hopefully y'all can hear me, because that would kind of be a flop if you couldn't, but it's whatever. Alright, so I decided to completely switch up the angle because that wasn't really comfortable, and I'm trying to be comfortable right now. I don't want to feel like I gotta sit up for y'all, and the park is where I come to relax, and as much as I want to talk, I also want to relax, and it's my video, so we're gonna do what I want. When I looked up the technical meaning of discernment, I think it came up for a definition as something like, I think it was like the ability to grasp the obscure, or the ability to make skilled decisions and to be able to sort of like see beyond maybe what's currently presented, especially when it comes to things like character that aren't so easily defined and so easily pinpointed, and being able to draw conclusions from that and to be able to make decisions based off of intuition, essentially. And I think one thing I'm going to do while talking about this is divide ourselves between skilled and unskilled. I feel like that's a really good neutral way of speaking about our abilities to navigate situations. I don't think anything is that black and white. I definitely think it's more of a scale and a spectrum, but for the sake of this video, I think I'm going to use the example of skilled and unskilled. This is not from my intellect. This is actually a way of phrasing things that came from my partner when he was doing some sociology classes, but it really stuck with me, and I thought it was a great to define the way we navigate certain situations, because I feel like in a lot of ways it does come down to whether or not we can maneuver life in a skilled or an unskilled way. And when I've been in conversation recently when it comes to discernment, it's always been in the perspective of relationships and navigating when you should dive deeper into a person and dive deeper into a relationship, or when you should withdraw yourself and when you should hold back and, not overshare and not trauma dump or do all these things that sometimes we naturally feel inclined to do with somebody, whether or not we know them. And just our ability to discern whether or not those relationships in our lives are genuine or surface level or simply something to let go of. And I feel personally, for me, discernment has been coming up a lot because I feel like I'm currently at a crossroads when it comes to my 9 to 5 and my job and making content, and also what I feel like I want to do for the rest of my life, because something that I know for certain is that I can't just work a 9 to 5 that I don't feel passionate about. I know for a fact, and I feel like I've always known, that I'm not meant to have that conveyor belt lifestyle where I go to school, which I did, and find a solid career and ride on that career for the next 40 years of my life until I retire. And and if that's for you, that's amazing, and I think there's nothing wrong with that lifestyle, but personally I don't connect to it. I feel like it's been hard for me though to place myself and find something that I feel comfortable with that's also sustainable for the lifestyle that I have and the things that I want to do. So I feel like discernment has been a big topic personally for myself, just because I'm trying to figure out what it is that I want to do if I didn't have all these pressures surrounding me, and if honestly I didn't need to put food on the table, and if a lot of those ifs and those fears and those, I don't know, just like conditions didn't exist, because I believe that there's something out there for me that will make me genuinely happy and get me to the places that I want to be. And I feel like in the past I've allowed fear to steer me, especially when it comes to finances and money, and I've allowed other people's opinions and advice to steer me as well, and I just don't want to live like that anymore, and I don't want to be that person that feels like I have to rush into a stable job just because it's stable, or rush into a 9 to 5. And honestly, the job that I work at right now, it's not a bad job, but I think most people in my life don't view it as a career, and that's what scares them. And I'm only 24, and I only say that because I'm young, but I feel like, especially with the internet now and the way we communicate and the way people share their lives and their lifestyles on the internet, I think it's put a lot more pressure on us at younger and younger ages to feel like we need to be doing more constantly, and we can be doing more and we should be doing more, which isn't always the case. And just like everything else, there's no one way to do it, and there's no one way to live your life that's going to get you to where you want to be. So I think I've just been practicing discernment in the sense that I'm trying to figure out how I should navigate my life and what I would do and what I should do to be happy, honestly, because at the end of the day, if I'm being real, the only thing I'm really concerned with right now is paying off stagnant debt. In other words, paying off bills and credit cards that I've acquired throughout the years that don't necessarily pay for anything that's continuous. And one of my big goals for this year is to pay those off and to reduce that financial burden in my life. So that's one thing that I am truly focused on right now, and honestly really the only thing when it comes to money that I'm focused on, as well as honestly finding ways to create passive and stable income that allows more freedom in my life, because I know that I have a really strong entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that's something that I see especially on my dad's side, and I've really been digging into that, and I think that might be a great way for me to learn financial stability but at the same time gain a lot more autonomy with my time and how I choose to live my life. So when it comes to discernment, whether or not you're dealing with relationships, you're dealing with life, and a work-life balance, I think one thing that's important to remember is that discernment doesn't come overnight. In a lot of ways, it comes from experience, and it comes from a place of being able to trust yourself and being able to know who you are so that you can place yourself. I think it always comes back to the self in that sense, because there's only one thing we know for certain, and that's who we are. Everything else is transitional. And that's just my truth. I don't want to project that onto anybody else, but that's at least something that I really feel. And so when it comes to being a skilled and an unskilled person, there's a lot of ways that we can build our toolbox and build ourselves to be able to navigate spaces in a way that feels comfortable for ourselves and feels healthy and it feels safe. And I think discernment is definitely one of those skills. Yeah, honestly, I feel like discernment will come down to experience, and the wisdom we've gained, and being able to use that to form sound judgment, especially when it comes to relationships, whether they're old or new, just because I feel like sometimes when we use judgment, we come off as judgmental to others. It may offend people. And I feel like that's why communication is also really important when it comes to being able to use discernment, because I think a lot of us are really good at defining what we want and what we need within ourselves, but when it comes to actually communicating that to others, that's kind of where we fall short. And so I think being able to communicate clearly and being able to express your thoughts and your emotions in a way that actually leads to action and it actually gives results is another skill. But I think the two go hand in hand, because I think honestly, if you have discernment but you're not able to communicate your boundaries and you're not able to communicate and voice yourself to others, I think it's still going to leave you in the same stagnant position. Honestly, I don't really know where I was going with this. I think you could take what you resonate with and then leave the rest, because it's just kind of like a word. Like I said, it's just been a buzzword. It's just been something that's been bouncing around in my head, and I've also used in conversation with other people, and I just think it's interesting. I feel like that happens quite often to me. I feel like every couple months or so, there's just like a word that comes into my awareness, and I feel like there's always a lesson attached to it, or at least it's attached to the situation that I'm in, which is pretty cool. And honestly, I used to pick a word each month. Like, I would have a word that I wanted to center my month around, and it could be positive or it could have been negative, and it's just been something that I felt called to sort of like analyze and reflect on. And yeah, now I'm kind of just like riding that wave. Also, I'm curious to see if anyone else does this, so comment below if you either have words that are just kind of like bounced around in your mind every once in a while, or you ever feel like there's a certain word you feel called to focus on, I guess, or has brought to your attention. Honestly, it is such a beautiful day today. I feel like I'm instantly put into a mental space of ease and peace whenever I'm at the park. I feel all of my energy, and I just feel so relaxed, like I could finally breathe out. And I don't know, I get so like smiley at the park too, which, not that I'm not a smiley person, but I definitely notice it more at the park. I feel like there's just this natural level of joy that exists whenever I'm just like around the trees and the animals and the birds. And I don't know, it's just kind of like contagious. I just kind of like pick it up. But yeah, I think I want to read for y'all. Okay, so this is The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. And it's interesting because when I was reading one of his thoughts, his trains of thoughts, it was essentially talking about how he'll open a book and see the first line that comes into eyesight and just read it and see what that message means to you. So let's see what the energy is for this very moment. Once a work is complete, no amount of testing can guarantee we've made the best possible version. Let me read that again. Once a work is complete, no amount of testing can guarantee we've made the best possible version. No matter what route you take, if you complete the journey, you will reach the same destination. This destination is a work we feel energized to share. One we look back on and wonder in amazement how it could have come from us. I don't know, man. I thought that was cool. A lot of his trains of thought have to do with being a creator and being creative beings, not just someone who considers themselves an artist, but the fact that we all have the ability to create and we all express it in our own special ways. And so it's been really cool to read this book just because as someone who has given themselves a conventional identity as a creative, I guess, sometimes it's hard to, accept the ebb and flow that comes as someone who is a creator and someone who creates. And so it's been really nice to hear his perspective and the thoughts and the wisdom he's gained throughout his own experiences. Also, I honestly didn't know who Rick Rubin was until finding this book. But he's a producer for Def Jams, and he's also a very spiritual, big, like, California hippie. So I don't know, I thought that was cool because I love the culture, I love rap, and I love music, and to hear the perspective of someone who exists in that world and is also someone who actively practices their own spiritual beliefs, it's just like interesting to see other people's perspective and to see how they navigate life. I recommend this book to anybody, honestly. I don't think it matters if you make content or if you want to make content or if you don't, and if you don't even consider yourself a creative person. I think we all create in our own special ways, and I feel like this book definitely just like highlights that, and it's just a reminder to take it all in and not get so fixated and worked up on, I don't know, all the little things. Just, yeah, that sounds so like cliche, but I don't know, y'all just gotta read it. You know what's funny? I just checked my phone and realized that it's on like 17% now, and because I do plan to be here a while and I really wanted to create content, I think I gotta go. So yeah, I'm kind of sad. I wanted to do a lot more at the park, but maybe this is like a sign that I should just take the time to relax and not spend it on my phone and making content. So I think that's my cue to end this video. And yeah, so thank you so much for coming to the park with me today. I honestly don't feel like I said much, but I think I said enough. So hopefully you enjoyed, and I can't wait to talk to y'all soon. Happy healing.